There are only four schools in this category in college football. Georgia's one of them. Are these the four schools that are going to wind up playing the college football playoff? It could be. After this weekend, in theory, you can make a case that that's definitely the case. These four teams have this thing in common: Oklahoma, Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia. They are all scoring at least 40 points a game and allowing 14 points or fewer. And I threw 14 in there because Oklahoma was right on the brink, and I felt like it was wrong not to put them in there. They're actually a little higher than Georgia and everybody else on the defensive front. But got four different schools that are undefeated. I don't think that I would consider Penn State the favorite to win their league. Oregon and Oklahoma, probably I'd have to look at the odds. Probably they're pretty close right now to being the leaders in their respective division or the respective conferences. But when you're averaging 40 to 14 and you're halfway through the season, a lot of those are junk games. I mean, Penn State has definitely played quite a few junk games. Um, and I know in this part of the world, we tend to disparage or decrease or don't take seriously what other leagues go up against. Penn State's played West Virginia, and I think they played Iowa. It's not been a great slate. That west part of the Big Ten is really bad. Oregon had to survive at Texas Tech, but I've seen Oregon enough to see and know, and not based on the Colorado game, but based on a lot of other performances. I mean, Oregon definitely can score. They struggled against Texas Tech. They struggled against Stanford. And then OU, OU's been relatively steady. Their competition has not been great either. So it's been one of those. I'm going to move over here because there's a glare that someone has suddenly given me off of their uh, minivan over there. But we're in the backyard with our buddies from Eco Poly. Quick story: my son thought it would be in his best interest to absolutely muddy himself and these chairs while he was at it. And I just took a wet rag and wiped it off. It was nothing. If you were dealing with wood, you'd probably be in that situation. That's not what these are. This is recycled material, poly material, made of recycled plastics. I've seen the process. It's awesome. 20-year warranty, made in the heart of Georgia. We've got a link down below, 15% off, free shipping. Um, they are really doing a great job down there. Make sure that you're checking out Eco Poly today. This weekend will give y'all a great opportunity to see some of these teams play as well, by the way. I mean, you got Washington and UW. You just saw Oklahoma play. Georgia Vanderbilt will be at noon on CBS. Penn State, I believe, plays at noon as well. There's a lot, or they play early. There's a lot of really good um, matchups this weekend. I wouldn't say it's anything unbelievable, but when you start talking about this group specifically, they can all really score. I think for this group, everybody thinks of Georgia as a defensive um, team, but I have to say that this season they've really been powered by their offense. I mean, 40 points a game is not nothing at all, particularly when you're doing that against a team as good as Kentucky was defensively. I mean, Kentucky's defense was the real deal for sure. Let's see if somebody has. I don't like seeing ambulances. Um, Particularly when you've got a team like Kentucky that came to town and Georgia just did what they wanted to do. Um, they executed from the first snap. I pulled up after the game the drive chart. This is a big drive chart. Our relationship. We're going to talk about the drive chart a lot. I don't, the drive chart tells you either you got it done or you didn't, and it's not like we're going to look at any one play or anything like that. The drive chart, when you step away, it's a 40,000 foot view look at things. And it can tell you quickly how many plays, how many yards, were there points or not? Was there a turnover or not? Did we punt or not? Are we stopping them or not? So the drive chart is the easiest way for me to take a look at things. Now, I listen. I have an education from DeKalb County Schools, so take that into consideration while you're listening to me yammer on about things. But um, we, it is the easiest way to look at stuff and quickly tell if Georgia's performing over time, or Penn State, or Oklahoma, or Oregon. those four teams are really not like others. I mean, when you look at SC and they're surviving against Arizona, why? You know, because they can't stop anybody. They cannot stop anybody. And I remember earlier in the season or in the summer when Barry Alexander said what he said about you know comparing it to the Georgia defense. Hey man, they're not close to Georgia's defense. They're probably not close to a lot of teams' defenses, to be honest with you. And but it seems like sometimes the Pac-12 is playing a different version of football, and we're going to see if it's successful. But you're going to eat a loss or two if you don't play defense. And SC is going to go to Notre Dame this weekend, if I'm not mistaken. It is at Notre Dame. I know that now, thinking about it, because the game is on NBC. They're an underdog in that game. Why? They can't stop anybody. And as um, challenged as Notre Dame has been this season, I mean, you think about who they played. They played NC State, Ohio State. They lost to Louisville. They played Duke. I mean, that's a challenging schedule. I mean, those were all road games except Ohio State. And so, Notre Dame, I mean, that is a really challenging schedule, okay? And they've got two losses. Are they the best two-loss team in the country? Probably. But um that's that's going to be the challenge for SC this week. Georgia rolling into Vanderbilt 40 and 14, averaging 40 and 14. Y'all, I mean, I'm not predicting it, but they could score 60 on Vanderbilt this week. I mean, Vanderbilt is not has not seen what it's about to see. If you're Georgia, can you score on defense? Can you get back to Muse scoring on special teams? It doesn't have to be Muse. It could be anybody. What was so interesting this weekend too, and it never came into play actually. It was really windy and whipping on the floor of Sanford Stadium on the pregame. I mean, it was really whipping, and the weather has changed. We are officially in fall at this stage, and I thought that there could be some moments when that wind, which was, I mean, it was noticeable on Saturday. I thought that could come in and give you some challenges if you're Kentucky or Georgia. It just didn't though, and so I can't remember if it died down. I can't remember if it did or not, but that was something that you may be dealing with more from here on out. These days have been beautiful, by the way. There are no clouds out here at all, literally, and but it is in the upper 50s, I think, and you're going to see we're in football season now, and can Georgia continue to uh, pile up points the way they have been? The drive charts, I mean, Georgia has really scored a lot lately. Now, people will say, well, they didn't score a lot at Auburn. They scored 27 and they turned it over twice. So you essentially, when you turn it over twice at the rate Georgia is scoring right now, that's about 3.5, 4 points a drive. And if you were to score, coming on 35 points on the road, yeah, that's scoring a lot. I mean, you should be able to win if you're scoring 27 points in the SEC on the road. We saw, South Carolina, they could not get to that. We saw Kentucky, they could not get to that in Athens. You saw this past week Vanderbilt, they could not do that. Now, you know, as it turned out for LSU, they had to score a lot more points than that to win, but they did. So you should be able to travel. If you can score about 4 touchdowns, your defense is going to have to do the rest in this league. Getting 28 to 30 points, you should be able to win on the road like that. It makes me think of the 2014 South Carolina game where Mike Bobo put up 35 points and Jeremy Pruitt couldn't keep his tongue off the ground. They were getting worked so hard by Steve Spurrier and the Gamecocks. That just can't happen. People remember that missed field goal or the Hudson Mason play, but you should, you're scoring 35, you should win on the road. But these are a different world now. Georgia's in a very different place than they were um, at that time. Jeremy Pruitt's not the defensive coordinator anymore. Mike Bobo is the offensive coordinator. And a lot of people you know, around college football that are not, Georgia homers or they don't care, they know that Mike can really put up points. And Kirby always, when you ask, you, the media group that covers Georgia that comes to these games, not the beat necessarily, but the beat and everybody, it's a younger group. They've not been doing this as long. They're not as, I don't know. It's not a great group, and some of the post game questions, um, Kirby will always steer it back, and he's correct that if you have really good players, you should win. Why do they recruit so hard? So they can have really good players, so they can go 40-14. Um, Ohio State, I don't. I mean, I know Ohio State's not doing 40-14 because they're probably not doing. I think they might be doing one, but they're not doing the other, obviously, and they just don't look crisp. Michigan, really good defense, and in November, that's when Michigan will get tested a little bit more. I mean, they got Ohio State obviously to close the thing. They got Penn State at some point, but they really, the Big Ten is so top heavy. It's just bad. Wisconsin's not good. Nebraska has been trash since I was in college. That's a long time. That's coming increasingly a long time ago. Um, and that league is just bad. I, the SEC, I would say, is certainly top heavy, but it's, you still have LSU, Missouri, Ole Miss. You've got teams, Kentucky. There are teams that if you don't play right, if you don't play right, you can lose. I don't see that in the Big Ten. So it is something that right now, the way that um, Ohio State played this past week against Maryland, again, an Eastern Big Ten school. There's just not a lot. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of really great teams in the Big Ten right now. It seems like there's really three really good ones though, with Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, and obviously Michigan State being a disaster. That doesn't help. Um, you know, Wisconsin, train wreck. Nebraska, Wisconsin's not a train wreck. They're just not good. Nebraska, not good. I mean, Illinois. I mean, you watching Illinois and Nebraska, you feel like you're watching, something straight out of 1984. It's just not good football, and it's different in the SEC right now. But can these teams keep this up? Can they continue to play at this level? I think these four probably can. Penn State might be the best team in the Big Ten. I can't figure the Big Ten out yet. It's not a great overall league, but we'll see. I know these four teams are pretty good, though. They're all averaging Georgia, Penn State, Oklahoma, Oregon, Penn State, and Georgia, all averaging 40 points on offense and only allowing 14 or fewer on defense. Thanks for watching.